born, we are controlled and manipulated by an alien hybrid race. We are fed poison and sold a cure. We are numbered, brainwashed, taxed, and lied to. We are food for the masters and nothing more. The lies we are sold are so powerful that we ourselves become preachers of deceit. No matter the technology, no matter the age of man, no matter the flag we hold dear to, we are pawns of the alien overlords. For thousands of years, mankind has been controlled by a powerful reptilian elite that came down to Earth as watchers and gods. Every religion, mythology, and folklore on planet Earth has some element of their history. Their offspring are the powerful and rich families that have been linked to so many secret societies. These creatures are malevolent by nature and ugly to our sight. They change shape, confuse, and conspire. They create and control the secret societies, shadow governments, and religions. Their power is over the control of our thoughts and actions. Knowledge is power. Arm yourself now and discover the truth about the cosmic conspiracy. Every level of our lives are now controlled by these in power. From the moment we are born, we are given a number, fed into a machine and monitored. Our health checked, recorded, and our daily lives become data in a vast computer that spews out statistics for control. We are fed information, news, and entertainment from birth. Propaganda manipulating our every thought. In Russia, everything is the fault of the Americans, and in America, it's the fault of the Red Peril. False borders, created and marked upon maps by our illustrious leaders, keep us always against our brothers, just a few miles away. Go to university and build up your debt. Buy a house and tie yourself into the bank for 25 years. Pay your taxes to get your bins emptied. Look a certain way to be accepted in your society. Eat this filth we have repackaged, painted, and scented for you. Trust us, we are your leaders. It is total control. We are cattle for the top of the food chain. But where did all of this begin? What are the origins of the elite? In fact, these serpent-like lizard aliens have been with us for millennia. Our governments are fully aware, and in many instances, there are secret battles against them in the sky and on the ground. In fact, this war with the aliens has been going on for thousands of years, and has come down to us in stories such as St. George killing the dragon. It is thought by many, including abductees, that the home planet of the aliens became overcrowded and virtually unlivable. They needed food, air, water, and resources, and so they came to Earth. The thousands of witnesses prove that they have come. Across the world, on every continent, people have witnessed them. Ships, flying saucers, cigar shapes, triangles, orbs, and more have all been sighted. They also prove that they are not perfect, because they have also crashed. Encounters of the third kind, face-to-face and terrifying meetings with aliens have been recorded for hundreds of years. We have given them many names, angels, messengers, titans, and gods. We have no idea how these aliens get here. It could be in physical spaceships. It could be through some kind of other dimensional travel. It could be we are linked to some form of multiverse and some people experience these theoretically possible other worlds. But the fact remains, they have come before and they are here now. The earliest knowledge of them we have is from Sumeria. In Sumerian creation myth, the angels known as the Ananagi or the Anunnaki or great sons of Anu were the founders of their culture. The names angel, Ananaje, and Anakim have much in common. They are indicative of the ancient ancestors who brought the secrets of civilization to the rest of the world. They were distinctly reptilian and descended to the earth and brought great knowledge. But they controlled mankind and armed elite groups known as the Watchers to keep mankind in check. In China, they are revered to this day as the Great Dragons, serpent-like powerful reptilian overlords with great power and weapons. They are the Dragon Kings and symbolize the power of the four elemental corners. They shapeshift from reptile to human at will. Their great celestial counterparts ride across the sky in chariots. In the Islamic world, they are the Jinn. These creatures appear to mankind as fire and serpent-like beings. The king of the Jinn was Jamshid. The resplendent Jam, as he was known, was the first to organize society and was one of the first legendary rulers of Persia. Wine and sugar were made for the first time. He was the first to construct roads and build ships, and he established the New Year's Day festival known as Ruz on the vernal equinox, which is still celebrated in Iran, a folk memory of the day they came. During his long reign, Jamshid received a warning that in 3 severe winters, heavy snowfalls would cover the earth and all creation would be destroyed, very much like the flood of Noah and dozens of other flood myths around the world. Jamshid followed the divine order and constructed a Var, which is a fortress into which he took the best men, women, animals, and plants to reproduce and replenish the earth after the snows had melted. The truth here is simple. These were powerful, reptilian, magical beings with the ability to wipe out every living thing on the earth and to genetically repopulate it. This exact same story can be found in many religions, including Judaism and Christianity. Indeed, the Bible is full of the history of these alien creatures and their activities on earth. It begins with the all-knowing serpent in the Garden of Eden who spoke to the first woman and convinced her to copulate. Is this not controlling the genetic population? And this is no snake. This is a speaking serpentine being living on the tree of life and knowledge. And because we know that these creatures are the serpents, reptilians, or dragons of our ancient myths, we also know where they came from because they gave it a name. In fact, they gave it their own name, Draco, the constellation named after the dragon, And because of modern abductions and sightings, we also know what they look like. Using the many cases collected by UFO experts across the world, these reptilian beings are between 6 and 8 feet tall, with a snake-like head, snake skin, and evil eyes. Most report them as being terrifying. There are various skin colors, such as red or green, or even white. And they have even been said to have wings, just like the angels of various cultures across the globe. It is believed by some abductees that the white-skinned and winged creatures are the more powerful and elite among them. Most state that these creatures actually enjoy causing anxiety and fear among the human population. They intentionally and physically affect our emotions in order to create the highest possible emotion. They use what has been termed the emotion field to cause trauma. And why do they do this? Because they feed from our emotions. The greater the fear, the more food for them. In the thousands of years that these creatures have been manipulating mankind, they have created a great deal of food for themselves. Mankind has attempted again and again to live in peace with each other, and yet all along, those shape-shifting, powerful families who work in the background have caused warfare, terrorism, racism, and hatred. To divide is to conquer, and so false religions created and fostered across continents have manipulated us into believing in fantasies. We are happy to believe that God can send down a son or prophet, but we are not so happy to believe that an alien race can travel across space, invade, and conquer mankind. And they are happy for us to continue in that way. In fact, they are happy for any kind of division amongst mankind because it causes emotional upset and hence the energy food they crave. By abducting humans, these creatures implant new memories and control mechanisms. They can access our thoughts and dreams. They can attack us in our sleeping state. Nowhere is safe from them. And nobody really knows who is a creature because they can shapeshift at will. Their abductions are more often than not harmful and very scary. They commit horrible acts upon the abductee. Often, these are of a sexual nature, and the reason is simple. It is a continuation of their genetic manipulation and alteration of mankind, slowly taking over Earth through hybridization, a union of the reptilian and human. This has been ongoing for thousands of years. Powerful families that can trace back their lineages for thousands of years. Royal families, presidents, business leaders, religious leaders, and even Hollywood stars. All of these and more manipulate mankind. They create emotion within us on a massive scale. One word from the Pope, and 1 billion people will listen. We are cattle, our emotions their food, and our planet here to strip bare. And they also take humans. That may sound fanciful, but there are startling statistics to back it up. The missing simply do not register in our conscious because of the massive number of humans that now inhabit our planet. In the United States alone, there are 700,000 people reported missing every single year. In the United Kingdom, there are 275,000 missing people every year. In Europe, 250,000 children go missing every year. In fact, 8 million children go missing in the world every year. These are just those that are reported, and these are just children. These figures are staggering, and abductees always suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and thus feed more emotional energy to the creatures. It's as if we are being farmed. It has been happening for millennia. Even the Bible tells us that when the gods return, mankind will be taken up. We must always look towards those in power for answers. Until very recent times, those in power were the loyal bloodlines and the religious leaders. They started our modern market-led world. Markets emerged near or even in temples and bustled with people and produce of the wider world. Social commerce also emerged as priesthoods, shared or traded knowledge with their cultures, and soon belief systems across vast continents had little to set them apart, all controlled by the same elite few. Much of this knowledge or tradition was very important and of value to the community, and involved knowledge of astrology and astronomy to enable them to predict the seasons and for navigation. As the power base of trade grew, so the ability to navigate became extremely important, and as the majority of the population had forgotten how to do this, it emerged as a special knowledge guarded closely by the elite, an elite that had the technology and knowledge far greater than even we have to this day. Control of the trading markets, both of the land upon which it was carried out and the navigation required to operate it, grew so powerful over time that the priesthood would do almost anything to maintain control. This is why much religious literature is awash with rules and regulation for trade and commerce, to keep the power within the elite. The system of trading eventually needed organizing differently because of lies. It all began because of deceit, and it remains pretty much the same today. At the market, a thing called a promise emerged whereby a man trading a goat for a pig would promise to bring his goat the following market day, only to fail in his promise. The priesthood or leader who controlled the process realized that some new system was needed to come into play, and so created money. From the word moner, meaning to warn. This new money was very cleverly based upon the gods themselves, adding incredible weight and fear to the promise. Gold was manifestly the solar divinity, the sun, and silver was the lunar deity, a mirror of the sun. Handing over a symbolic representation of the gods was a powerful promise, and the gods would know if you reneged on your promise. This added even more power to the priests and fear among the people. The church itself backed the promise, and so became the bank. Power was well and truly in the hands of the few, and the rest of us simply had no choice but to conform. This situation is almost unchanged, and today many banks are at least still partly owned by the church and royal families. Our lives are still, and more so than ever, run by money, and we have no choice but to live in the world of commerce. Every day we hand over our images of the solar deities, which are no longer even real gold, but instead are promises of gold. There are more promises of gold in the world than there is gold, and so the system, created because of lies and deceit, is itself a total lie. But it is the system we live in, and individually, we must make our own decisions on how to do so. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, we are subjects of a massive machine. We are plugged in like a light that is only alive and lit by the machine. And because of this, we no longer know how to shine for ourselves. And within the system itself, were secret groups working behind the scenes to maintain and grow their power and hold over mankind. In the 18th century, mankind discovered a secret group working within the governments, businesses, and religions at the highest level. They were known as the Illuminati, and they are a cover for the creatures. This is a creation of the creatures of light, of illumination, a secret of Lucifer, the angel of light that fell down to earth. In the 18th century, a Freemason wrote the following words: "There are a certain number of people who have arrived at the highest degree of imposture. They have conceived the project of reigning over opinions and of conquering not kingdoms nor provinces, but the human mind. This project is gigantic and has something of madness in it, which causes neither alarm nor uneasiness. But when we descend to details, when we regard what passes before our eyes of the hidden principles, when we perceive a sudden revolution in favor of ignorance and incapacity, we must look for the cause of it. And if we find a revealed and known system explains all the phenomena which succeed each other with terrifying rapidity, how can we not believe it?" The origin of the Illuminati can be traced back thousands of years to a group called the Shining Ones, celestial beings the Bible and Islam called angels, and who had giant warriors called watchers who controlled and manipulated man. This is not fantasy. This is in the text of the Bible and ancient Samaria. These are the gods who came down to earth in great ships and who wielded powerful weapons. They genetically created humanity and have been manipulating it ever since through money and religious fear. Through the Illuminati, they connect their powerful families and leaders. They infiltrated other powerful secret societies and elite groups and took control. Using any means necessary, they took and held power. The symbolism of the Illuminati spread just as they did. It exists to this day as symbols in the Freemason Society and on the US dollar bills. Their influence was vast. Over the past 200 years, the church has adapted and is no longer outwardly dictatorial, and so no longer the perceived threat it was in the 18th century. It had to change, as it always has. The royal houses were creatures themselves and joined the Freemasons and even patronized many orders. Those that were not have been swallowed up in revolutions. Such revolutions did not just happen overnight. They are created, fostered and brought to fruition by the very clever people who need backup and finance. The revolutions of the French, American, Russians, Spanish, and more have all been instigated by secret societies, all with the aim of overturning the authorities on behalf of the people. And yet, the same people are still in the control of the elite. It's just in a different way. Today, instead of being indoctrinated into a church, we are manipulated by the media. In all cases, that media is controlled by the elite or government. It is the modern-day stained glass window and hymn to keep the masses happy, entertained, distracted, and even fearful. We are born, given a number, stamped with our country of origin, cajoled into debt and education they own and control. Nobody is free of paying their taxes. The Illuminati are a group created by the same elite that have always manipulated us and still do. The same elite that, in fact, came down to earth. We like to have names for things, and so we still call the elite the Illuminati. It is the control, the power, the wealth, the bloodlines that are the truths behind all the conspiracies of the world that we are aware of. The bloodlines of the reptilians. Rome was a powerful empire. Our history books tell us that it collapsed, and yet it became the home of one of the biggest religions on the planet. The soldiers left the shores of Europe and were replaced with priests. Control of countries and their people was now in the hands of those who owned the stairway to heaven, and only through them could we, the ordinary people, achieve enlightenment. It does not matter to those in control whether we pay our tithe to the priest or the Illuminati superior, just as long as we pay. And if we don't, then we always have the option of being condemned to live out eternity in hell. There are numerous groups across time that we know were created to protect some great secret. The Ismailis, the Assassins, the Knights Templars, the Cathars, the so-called Priory of Sion, and a lot more. Nobody has been able to prove any theory that the secret was the child of Jesus, or the burial place of the Holy Grail, or any other fanciful notion. The reason is simple, because all of the supported secrets are smoke screens. The real secret is that they were outside guardians of an inner sanctum of elite that crossed cultural and religious boundaries and have existed for a very long time. The long line of hidden leaders that stretches back to the very first shaman, priests, judges, and magi, the ancient aliens, the ones who are the king makers, the king breakers, the ones who place the crown upon their pawn's head, who whisper in their ear. These are the true Illuminati, hidden and yet in full view. We watch the news. We see war, disease, poverty, man against man. We see billions of poor people displaced by the power brokers. We see the super rich getting richer. Many simply see the news. They don't understand or even try to. They don't know the bigger picture, the truth about what is really happening out there. The truth is, what happens out there affects us all. And all of those world events are happening, not by chance, but by design. All of our lives are being affected by just a few shape-shifting reptilian hybridized men. Those men are members of an elite group. Their ancestors plotted and schemed just as they do today. Their goals are short and long-term. They affect all levels of society, lawmakers and enforcers, religious and political leaders, movie makers and media moguls, industrial giants and pharmaceutical murderers. All around the world they work, plotting and scheming and plotting. Nobody dares to speak out against them. Most don't even know. Through clever manipulation, marketing, propaganda, and force, they control the world. These are not the people you're thinking of. These are not always the politicians who are often pawns themselves. These people are members of a long line, a golden thread through history that stretches back thousands of years and can be traced through their own alien bloodline. We have given them many names: Illuminati, New World Order, Priory of Sion, and more. What they do and who they are is such a huge secret that any means is used to keep them safe. In truth, all of these organizations are run by the same old guard. It is the power base that has been in place for millennia. International bankers and businesses owned by the same old people influencing our so-called democracies. There is no true independence won on the 4th of July. There never was. No president of the U.S. has ever been elected that was not part of the gang or could be manipulated by the gang. No president or prime minister dare argue with such power. When anybody does rock the boat, they are removed. We have seen enough suspicious assassinations to know this to be true. A Democrat member of the United States House of Representatives, Larry McDonald, said in a book from 1976, "The drive of the Rockefellers and their allies is to create a one-world government, combining super-capitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control. Do I mean conspiracy? Yes, I do. I am convinced there is a plot international in scope, generations old in planning, and incredibly evil in intent." There is little doubt that these alien hybrid men in power wish to remain in power. They will do whatever they can to grow in strength. Along the way, they gather around them others of like-minded and use the greed and envy in the human psyche to control them. Over the centuries, that power is passed on, not to an elected representative of the people, but to others within the bloodline. Would you build an empire and not pass it on to your offspring? Manipulation, promises of wealth, propaganda, and bullying are all tactics used again and again and have been used for eons. Just because those people deny or ridicule accusations of conspiracy does not make the conspiracy any less true. The Council on Foreign Relations is an imperial hierarchy, a group of unelected people who lead us. They have been shaping American and European policy for decades in union with other similar organizations such as the Bilderberger Group. In 1940, the science fiction writer H.G. Wells wrote a book called The New World Order, in which he discussed the open conspiracy. He said, "Countless people will hate the New World Order, be rendered unhappy by the frustration of their passions and ambitions through its advent, and will die protesting against it. When we attempt to evaluate its promise, we have to bear in mind the distress of a generation or so of malcontents, many of them quite gallant and graceful-looking people. Wells was himself an advisor to the United Nations. He knew what was going on and even fought for it. His popular fiction, The Time Machine, is an insight into the reality he did not openly speak of. A future world divided between them and us. A world of people controlled, who have lost their voice and spirit. A world of illiterate and stupid humans with no voice being eaten and devoured by an alien hybrid species. Nothing is as we're told. Almost everything we read or see on the television screens is manipulated or bent. Eventually, the majority end up believing in what they are being fed and begin feeding it to others. It is a simple process used by the Nazis themselves. Repeat a message again and again. Ridicule anybody who disagrees. The moves being made are gradual and for good reason. If China, with its huge population, were to open up to Western ideas overnight, there would be chaos and revolution. It has to move slowly. Build up the economy through trade and internal investment. It has to come into balance with the West rather than be exposed to it and cause massive jealousy and resentment. The same has been true for hundreds of years in many parts of the world. A vast human resource on global scales cannot be controlled easily. It takes time and careful planning. The same is true of the West in many respects. We simply cannot place a one-world government into power overnight. Too many nationalistic sentiments would cause international outrage. It has to be done slowly. And we must not forget that there are those groups in the world who see the corruption of the Western way and are fighting against it. This has to be met with force and propaganda, and this takes time and is a useful tool to raise yet more arms revenue and emotional distress. The gradual nature of the New World Order is easy to map. From long before the 1800s, new international groups have been fostered to meet behind the scenes and grow the beast. A fraternity of brothers, crossing borders and religious barriers, meeting behind the scenes and making deals. By the 20th century, we were creating a League of Nations, an international monetary fund, a United Nations, a World Bank, a World Health Organization, a European Union, a World Trade Organization, African Union, and the Union of South American Nations. These are just a few of the powerful clubs around the world where the members are more often than not placed into power, not elected. And we are told repeatedly that we live in a democracy. While the West accused Russia of causing trouble in Eastern Europe, they sell them arms and buy their gas. While we bolster one regime in Africa, we sell the other side weapons and food. The surface story is thin. It has always been this way. As Lawrence of Arabia was convincing the Arabs that Great Britain was on their side, the British and French were plotting to carve up their land between them and siphon off the oil. Indeed, the British Secret Service were even in talks with the enemy, the Turks. The question is not whether a world government will ever happen. The question is not even when. The question is, why are we not fully aware that it already exists? The answer is smoke and mirrors. Distractions are everywhere. While the major Secret Service organizations of the globe are busy collecting data on our every word and deed, the governments are passing legislation empowering them to do so. Why? Because of the perceived threat of terrorism, a threat they created through their actions and have utilized again and again. Massive distractions are everywhere. We are so bombarded with them now that we hardly know what's happening in our own lives, let alone being able to see that the alien child of the New World Order has grown into a fully formed and functioning organization. The banks, the media, the politicians, industry, religion, and royalty are all members of this New World Order, and they all meet regularly at the highest level to decide on the next move. Thousands of intelligent men and women then run around with small parts of the bigger picture and make it happen. Eventually, the lies become reality, and we, the people, do the master's bidding. With all the modern technology that now surrounds us and entraps us, with all the science and evolutionary evidence, with satellites out in space and visions of subatomic particles crashing into each other, we ought to have arrived at a place where the yoke of mystery and religion no longer held us under its spell. And yet, billions of people still believe in God, ghosts, royal right to rule, and life after death. Our ruling elite, the ones behind the scenes, the ones who are currently holding the golden thread of time, woven by their ancestors, are no different. We hear names such as the Cathars, Templars, Rosicrucians, Freemasons, Illuminati, Kabbalists, and more. These are fleeting names, branches of the one alien esoteric tree. But pull hard enough on any one of them and you begin to unearth the roots, and they run very, very deep and spread around the world. There are secret societies all over the world. Its members are in power at all levels. Look at your own government, whether national or local, and you will find its members are on the boards of big business. You will discover that they have relatives in groups that control the media, religion, industry. You will find links to royalist lines of descent. You will find a spider's web. The question is, have you been caught? Reptilian humanoids are in every religion and folklore on the planet. They cross cultural bounds. Knowledge of these people was once known, and we know this because they were written down in text and imaged in art. From the Aztec reptile god to the serpent Naga gods of India, from the snake of the Garden of Eden to the Anunnaki of Sumeria. Their food is energy. We know this because it too was recorded. Serpent energy is recorded in the form of the Kundalini. It comes from within. It can be good or bad, dark or light. This serpent energy and its symbolism is all over the world from across the centuries. We are even told about the breeding programs they initiated between themselves and the females of Earth. The scribe Enoch was told by them to write it down, and it entered the Bible. Enoch tells us this was the time of war between those who had come down from the sky, the angels, the Nephilim, the shining ones. These were the great shining serpents who had magical flaming swords and wheel-like or disc-like ships that flew around the sky. As the scribe of the shining ones, Enoch himself was shielded from death and taken away by the aliens to live out his days in heaven. Christians today know him as the man who walked with God, and the reason is simple. God came down to earth and walked on our soil, spoke with Enoch, as his own species were populating the planet and genetically manipulating its inhabitants. Whatever this means, it does reveal that ancient man witnessed something remarkable. In truth, this was the period of the ancient invasion of planet Earth by the shining race of serpents or reptilians who came from the sky. Our ancestors worshipped them for their amazing power, and yet in our modern scientific age, we can now see things more clearly. These were not angels or messengers of light. These were not great Greek deities sat on high and issuing commands. They were not the many-faced Hindu or Egyptian gods. These were beings from another planet who came here with superior technology. They helped mankind start civilization. They bred with us, and they fought with each other. Most, we are told, left, but the hybrid race remained among us as special people, a reptilian shape-shifting people. And now, with every passing day, NASA tells us that they have discovered yet another Earth-like planet that could sustain life. They find ancient rivers and lakes on Mars and even fatty acids within the Martian soil. They alter their equations on the existence of alien life on a weekly basis. Even they are growing more and more aware that soon they will discover something special. The question is, will we awaken the ancient invaders? And will they return? The answer is simple. Whatever we are told will be a lie. They came here, and they are still here. They control the media and the big corporations, including NASA, and they certainly won't give themselves up. The last time man knew about them was thousands of years ago, and he left us the information. A time of giants. A race of giants were created through genetic manipulation, and a war started. The aliens' gods wiped everything out and left behind the hybrid reptilians to rule, feed, and collect. The hybrids became the royal families of the world, and the secret of these bloodlines became something to protect at any cost. From Egypt to Europe, their bloodlines became sacred and protected. They were the sons and daughters of the gods, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, European royalty, presidents of America, pop stars, media moguls, and Hollywood families. All of these and more are part of the elite. They now control prison Earth every inch. And the people do not even realize they are trapped and controlled. Through distractions, they confuse, and through poisoned food, water, and air, they keep them slow and simple. Over time, these reptilian overlords have emerged in myth, folklore, and even fantasy. They have appeared as bizarre secret societies. We will now take a look at some of these to reveal their true nature. Before the Second World War, Hitler and his Nazi Party friends became fascinated by an idea called Thule. A society emerged, the Thule Society, and it in fact sponsored the creation of the Nazi Party itself. It spawned the most evil political party ever to have existed. Think about that for a moment. Its members went on to become powerful Nazi Party members, such as Rudolf Hess. It was named after a mystical island said to exist in northern Europe, a land of ancient mystery said to exist at the boundaries of the known world. A strange idea to gather around. It was the home of a special, powerful, and elite race of beings known as the Aryan race. A word which means respectable and noble, a royal bloodline. In line with the concept of keeping this ancient alien bloodline pure, new followers had to swear on oath that they had no Jewish or colored blood. Only the senior members of the Thule Society knew the truth, that a master race of alien beings of a special bloodline were living on and under planet Earth. This society was known as the Vrilya. They had incredible, advanced technology that went far beyond the capabilities of humans. This included a special liquid power source known as Vril. This magical energy could power machines and heal, but it was also very destructive and could wipe out entire cities. As time progressed, the German war machine started to reveal amazing technology that far surpassed anything the Allies had. And rumors spread that the senior members of the Nazi Party were ritualistically involved in the magical powers of the occult, a power and energy directly from the discovery of these Vrilya people. Did the Nazi expectations come true? They truly believed that they were in touch with the alien masters, that somewhere out there they would discover the answers to advanced technology and genetic science. All of this would give them dominance over the world. A political force that on one hand was logical to the point of being steel, and yet also believing in a occult connection to aliens and superhumans, that they could fashion the genetics of the world and usher in a 1,000-year Reich. All the documents pertaining to the secret teams that spread out around the world in search of ancient artifacts and alien technology were destroyed. The evidence, however, when pieced together, proves that they found something. that they had amazing knowledge, far in advance of the rest of mankind, while all of the time building a massive economy, war machine, and turning around the fortunes of a broke nation. It is an amazing feat, and one that earned Hitler the front cover of Time magazine. The big questions are these: what do the aliens get out of such contact, and is that contact still ongoing, and with whom? Suddenly, within the space of one generation, we are wearing supercomputers on our wrist and speaking to people face to face who are on the other side of the planet. The Second World War saw the rise in amazing engineering with rockets and nuclear energy. But it also saw the birth of computer technology, another area that the Nazis were superior in. Hundreds of reports from Allied pilots during the war report not just amazing fighter technology, but other strange and bizarre flying machines. Most of these reports were taken very seriously and covered up. Flashing lights traveled at supersonic speeds. Flying discs, orbs, and other strange objects have never been explained. The UFO phenomenon of the Second World War is a massive part of our history that has been played down, ignored, and hidden. Professional men and women around the world witnessed UFOs every single day, and yet today people are ridiculed for seeing the same thing. We still travel in cars, on trains, and planes, but something out there is not. Something out there is traveling in much more advanced machines, and somebody behind the scenes of power knows who they are. Once Hitler and his cronies had served their purpose, however, they were cast aside, and a new world order was ushered in. One now controlled by two distinct opposing forces and capable of creating massive wealth for the elite bloodline families through fear. Over the years, there have been many similar stories. The Freemasons involved various revolutions and power shifts, infiltrated by the Illuminati, controlling politicians, religious leaders, businessmen, and more. Their influence is vast and crosses cultural and religious boundaries. As too is the Bohemian Grove, which is a meeting of minds of the most powerful, like the Bilderbergers. Members have included Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, and Richard Nixon. It is a fact that this group planned the Manhattan Project, which brought the world its first nuclear bomb. These secret societies are all separate on the surface, but in truth, they are all controlled by the ultimate elite, the reptilian shapeshifters. History is constantly being rewritten by them to serve their own needs. They control the media so that you only see what they want you to see. The internet is being tightened up and will soon be totally controlled. Stupid, banal programs are funded. Intelligent, investigative programs are not. The people are happy to be entertained with bright lights, loud people, and pretty colors as they walk slowly towards incineration. The stock markets and businesses of the world are controlled through financial might. We as individuals are under a burden of tax so heavy that we must work and work until the day we die. We earn money, it is taxed. We buy goods with what is left. The goods are taxed. We try to save a little. The savings are taxed. We are stripped bare. For every dollar you earn, you really keep only 30 cents. 70% of what you and I earn go towards the rich elite in the governments of the world to start wars on our behalf. Free energy is subdued, peace is squashed, cures for cancer outlawed. What is important, we are told, is pride, patriotism, and borders. Hatred of our fellow men for being different. Fear grows and fear pays the big man to make more arms, pills, and potions. Laws are created to take even more of our money, to scare us a little more, to create jobs for the boys, to confuse and confound us just a little more. There is no need for so many laws. There is no need to hate other humans. There is, in fact, enough wealth in the world for every man, woman, and child to live happily, with space around them, and in peace with their neighbors. And yet, the rich elite have multiple homes, billion-dollar yachts, plastic surgery, and power over us. We are still, after hundreds of years, serfs doing the master's bidding. And the masters are still the same alien, reptilian elite. But we are not just stripped bare by this complicated system they have created. We are monitored as well. Every street corner, every dash cam, every laptop and mobile device, every ATM, and every store now has a camera and a microphone collecting data and storing it. And soon all of this data and more that we are freely and innocently offering up every minute of every day will be collated and used by a super powerful, artificially intelligent mind that has been developed by and will be owned by the rich, powerful elite. Drugs are put into the drinking water. People are tested upon. Propaganda is flashed at us hourly. Microwaves and ultra-low frequency wave bands are utilized to send out subliminal messages. Any outrage is dealt with by calling it crackpot. Diseases are used to control the masses. Black Death, plagues, Ebola, smallpox, AIDS, and more have all been used. There is no escaping the system. We are trapped in a world of ultimate control. We are slaves to the alien overlords.